Hello, I'm Adam Jasser. Welcome to Face to Face, our weekly attempt with Editor-in-Chief Michał Broniatowski to interpret news which matter most to Central and Eastern Europe. Michał, welcome.
I'll do my best.
A tall order, again.
Yes, as usual.
Right, so let's start with the so-called peace process in Turkey, the latest installment. The talks between low-level Russian delegation and some Ukrainian counterparts finished.
Not some Ukrainian counterparts, but the highest possible, but the president. So.
Okay, but the Russian delegation was low level.
Low level is, to say the least, it's understatement. Is just.
But you haven't allowed me to finish my question.
I know. I want to say that this delegation is just.
No, carry on.
That this delegation is slap on the face of everybody, not only Ukrainians, but also President Trump.
Yeah, but this was a ruse from the beginning. Putin called these talks, asked for them, right, suggesting he would come. President Trump said, you know, if he comes, I'll come. And then, of course, Putin didn't come, sent a low-level delegation, and the talks finished after less than 2 hours with apparently Russians making even more outrageous demands than before.
Yes, they want Ukraine to cede the whole territory, which is considered by Russia as their own. Even the territories which were not overtaken by the army, by the military. So it's simply outrageous.
So it was a ruse?
Yes.
Right.
Russian ruse.
Okay, so, Russian ruse. So where does it take us?
It takes us to the conclusion, the several conclusions. First, I think, is the major disaster for the President Trump, because his goal, which he was presenting from the very beginning of his presidency, even before, was that he will come with his magician touch and he will introduce peace in Ukraine, only because he will get involved. And very quickly, it appeared that Russians are, Mr. Putin specifically, is just using his impetus to do not very clever things, I would say. One of them was to try to talk only to the Kremlin about the situation on the front line, excluding not only Ukrainians but also Europe. And it appeared completely misfiring.
Can I be the devil advocate here, or do you want me to wait until you finish your three other
points?
Be
the devil.
So, yes, you certainly have a point. But on the other hand, Putin got himself into a corner after all these weeks now. Because everybody, let's say for the sake of argument, Trump attempted to persuade him that he's friendly. He even managed to say that Zelensky is responsible partly for the war. So he was saying, Mr. Putin, I'm all for you. And the Europeans will push them aside. What do you want? We can even start business again, you know. So he offered a huge lure to Putin.
It was his, yes. Right?
And Putin sort of said, yes, I like that.
No. Putin used him because Trump was...
No, but what I wanted to say is...
Trump was transparent to Putin, because Putin understood that Trump is so friendly to him, and even is misinterpreting the reality, because he wants to drag him away from the friendship with China.
The devil wants to speak. But look at it from the other point of view.
You don't look like a devil.
Oh, thank you. So Putin responded in a sort of his usual convoluted way, but nevertheless, he saw some attraction in this. And now the situation is that everybody wants peace. Zelensky aligned with Trump aligned with Europeans. Even the global South is beginning to see that Putin is the main obstacle to ceasefire, to peace.
So I will be a devil now.
Okay. Now you can be the angel, please.
No, it's not being the angel. I think that at least temporarily, Putin gets what he wants, because by playing this game with Trump, he achieved bigger engagement from Mr. Xi Jinping, which ended with all these, or culminated with all these agreements about mutual friendship and military cooperation signed with China on May 9th, Russian anniversary of the end of war, the Second World War. So he managed to make Xi more involved. He also almost managed to completely destroy relations between the U.S. and Ukraine. But then Trump suffered this disaster, which ended with letting the five of the willing, when they were talking to,
but
they called Trump, and Trump was invited to the table.
I wouldn't. I would. Okay, I'm not sure we know exactly what happened there, but if you look at it from Putin's perspective, it's another Pyrrhic victory for him. Just like, his stated goal was not to allow NATO expansion, right? And then Finland and Sweden joined.
We are talking about the situation 3 years ago.
Hold on a second.
Now we are talking about today.
Hold on a second. He managed to split the Europeans from the US initially, right? And now he brought them together. And Trump seems to be aligned with the Europeans much more. There's talk of sanctions. But more importantly, today, the leaders meeting in Albania, European leaders, said they will continue delivering arms to Ukraine. And it's quite possible that the US will also continue delivering arms to Ukraine. So, I'm not entirely sure that Trump's tactic isn't working.
I'm not sure about Trump's tactic. I would insist on him failing on his big announcements at the beginning of his presidency.
Okay, fair enough.
The same as tariffs and all these internal policies as well. But he's an obvious failure, right, in this case, while Putin at least bought some time.
Okay, fair enough. And also, it seems I'd like to ask you about this, because obviously somewhere there, people who see some kind of grand strategy behind what Trump is doing in his administration, they say focus is on China, and therefore prizing Russia away from China was the whole purpose of this.
Yes.
So you think this has failed?
Yes.
So far?
Well, I don't think, depends on what does it mean so far, but it definitely helped Putin to put his relations with China on this stronger foundation.
Okay, but, again, there seems to be, some realignment between Europe and the US. They seem to be on the same wavelength now when it comes to Ukraine. Maybe not tariffs so much and some other issues, but at least here there seems, you mentioned the call today from Albania after the collapse of the talks in Turkey. The same leaders, the Polish Prime Minister, the British Prime Minister, they all called Putin again. So at least there is coordination, and that was missing initially. So that moves things forward. So, is this now becoming a point where the West is going to come out more forcefully again to support Ukraine?
I hope it does. This direction of more coordination and better coordination of support to Ukraine and also opposition to Russia is increasing, and then this front is growing, and people like countries like Hungary or Slovakia are all the time more isolated, because this point of view in which your program is we don't support Ukraine is losing traction in Europe. And
right, it will be very hard for Mr. Orban to block sanctions if Trump endorses these sanctions, right?
Yes, and you never know what to expect from Mr. Orban, but Mr. Orban, because he's usually opposing everything at the start, and then in the end, he gets something which he wanted.
It's interesting because he's gone quiet. He was talking about Trump getting the peace deal immediately. He's gone completely quiet. Another person who's gone quiet is Netanyahu, Prime Minister of Israel, because Trump met the Syrian leader and is talking to Iran and omitted Israel from the list of countries he visited this week.
Which is very strange, which is must be very painful to Netanyahu. And probably this is the way of, exerting some influence on him to
stop
provide some solution for Gaza, because after this truce, which lasted for, I don't know, two months or something, he's now gone back.
Yeah, which means, of course, that Trump didn't deliver on two promises. The war in Gaza
stop
isn't
wars.
over.
He didn't
Yes,
stop.
He didn't stop.
One war he managed to stop, which is India and Pakistan.
Well, he claims credit for it, but
of course.
Anyway,
this war is suspended.
That wasn't a war. That was a skirmish more than a war. Anyway. I wanted to ask you about something else. It is interesting to see Poland much more engaged now in coordinating European policy. Certainly, we saw that Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk is now talking to Donald Trump, together with the Prime Ministers of Britain, France, and Germany. So, and Poland has been trying to maintain good relations with the US, keeping the US in, while hedging, let's say, by developing closer ties with France, with Germany, with the UK. Poland signed a new treaty with France and so on and so forth. But now Poland is facing a presidential election. So my question to you is, does that election change this trajectory depending on who wins?
If we still have doubts who wins, of course, until the last moment we will not know, but all the indications are that the winner will be Mr. Trzaskowski, who is an ally of Tusk, and also a person which has a very strong international ties. He's probably not that big player as Tusk is in the international arena, but he definitely will have lots of ears to listen to him.
Right, but the voters in Poland decide on who's going to be president, not...
Yes, of course. But that only, if we assume that he wins, which is quite possible, in 2 weeks' time...
Then there will be continuity.
Not only continuity, it will be a strengthening of Polish hand in Europe, because Poland is apparently the only country now in Europe which is going different direction than the apparently the rest of the continent. We don't know about the outcome of the Romania elections, which are also taking place on Sunday. Well, they have the second round.
The race in Poland is very close. And, we're talking about few percentage points, and we know that there is a very long list of candidates, 13 candidates. So both front runners are, around 30, 25, so yes. But there are lots of others, and we don't know how these voters are going to behave. And we have seen surprises in the second rounds.
Yes, but this time I think the candidate of the Liberal Center, which is Mr. Trzaskowski, is much more active in campaigning, and plus he's representing a largest partner in the ruling coalition of Poland, which includes two other parties or other coalitions. But anyway, these representatives of these parties are trading not very bad, I would say.
Yes,
and in total, they would have something like 15-17%, and
the smaller parties, you mean?
Smaller, yeah.
But belonging to the coalition.
So together with his 35-ish, it makes 50% for the next round. Let's hope that all of them will behave in a way they are expected to. It is to support.
So in the second round they will back the coalition candidate.
Right.
Okay, but for the sake of argument, if Mr. Nawrocki were to prevail in the end, what would that imply for the for Polish position for Poland's position in the EU, and this whole issue of Ukraine. We know that Mr. Nawrocki, the candidate of Law and Justice, is a critic of Ukraine, is a critic of Germany.
But he has no say in foreign policy.
Okay, so explain it to us. How come Poland can have a president who has no influence on foreign policy?
You know, he has the problem with that is that he has no positive power, and he cannot propose anything. He cannot represent any view of Poland without consent of the prime minister. But he has the right of veto on not signing documents like, for example, nomination for ambassadors.
Well, here you go.
Well, you know, the current president does not do it. He refused to sign in.
He's from the same grouping as Mr.
Yes.
Nawrocki.
And so what happened? Poland is not represented by ambassadors, but by chargé
But you know,
d'affaires.
politics is dynamic. So if you have a presidential election, which is a popular vote, and let's say someone who opposes the current government comes to power, then, you know, early elections can happen. The entire dynamic in the country changes.
Oh, we are jumping
Okay.
too high.
Ahead of the story.
Ahead of the story. Let's wait another 2 weeks. In 2 weeks' time, we will meet, and I will tell you what's going on.
Thank you, thank you. I thank you in advance, as they say. So, Romania, you mentioned Romania. How is the situation in Romania different from what is happening in Poland? Briefly, because we are running out of time.
Yeah, this is going the opposite direction. In the direction in many other countries in Europe. We can see it in many other countries.
In what way?
It's going extreme right. It's following steps of the American election last year. And by the way, there's Mr. Simeon, who is
the front runner.
Front runner.
Although in the last few days, the polls are indicating a very close race.
You know, I wouldn't trust very much these polls because...
So you trust the Polish polls, but you don't trust the Romanian
Yes,
polls.
because Romanian polls in the first round...
Got it wrong.
In the autumn, not only they got it wrong, they didn't even see the winner, Mr. Chalin Georgescu. He was not even in contention.
But Michał, what I'm really trying to get you into sort of talking about is, you know, Poland and Romania are two biggest countries on the eastern flank of the European Union and NATO. And both are going through a difficult time politically. And, you know, could this have some wider ramifications?
Luckily, Poland is in a direction which makes European Union and Europe in general more comfortable. Poland is going in the center. Poland is pro-European. Poland is pro-Ukrainian and anti-Russian.
Okay.
And with Romania, if Mr. Simeon wins, it will be harmful for Ukrainians. It will make Mr. Putin very happy, and it will be a difficult now for the European Union, which already has problems with Mr. Orban, and as of recently with the Prime Minister of Slovakia, Mr. Fico.
All right, Michał, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you for watching Face to Face. See you next week, and stay on with TVP World for more news and analysis.